Welcome to another episode of Giant Cocktails.
Thanksgiving edition. Woo woo.
That's right. Thanksgiving edition. I am your host, Ben Henry, alongside my brother, the biggest turkey I know, Matthew Henry. How you doing, Matthew?
First of all, I've been called worse. Okay, so sure, biggest turkey. That's almost a compliment.
I meant it as a compliment.
Okay.
Man, a lot of, in a couple of days, a lot of turkeys are going to be complimented all around the country.
This is true. I'll just be one of thousands, millions even.
That's right. Look at that big, bald, beautiful bird.
All right. I'm feeling pretty good about it now. Well, in that case, I'm doing great, Ben. Thanks.
Good. Yeah, here we are. It's a special edition of Giant Cocktails. We're actually turning back the clock, folks. This is a happy hour. We're giving you a happy hour. And for those of you who listened to Giant Cocktails and The Perfect Sip and thought that maybe you were getting two episodes, I'm sorry to disappoint you.
You're going to notice some big similarities.
Yeah, the rest of the episode's going to be exactly the same.
But we wanted to shout out to all of our Giant Cocktails fans. Woo, woo, go Giants.
That's right. And here's the thing, though. We're going to be back in like 5 days. It's Saturday. Today's Friday. And then it's Saturday. That's 1 day. 2 days, Sunday. 3 days, Monday. We're going to be back in 3 days.
Talking actually about Giants.
Talking about the actual Giants. We're going to talk about all the things that they've done.
And then probably a lot of filler stuff, too, because they haven't done a whole lot.
What are you talking about? Randy Winn? Kyle Haynes has got a new boss?
That's going to take at least 10 minutes.
Yeah, as we try to figure out what Randy Winn is going to do. Anyway, but we're going to talk about that on Monday. Today we're talking about cocktails. So, Matthew, maybe we should do that. Maybe we should get into talking about Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving cocktails.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So, Matthew, this is a Thanksgiving episode, and we're going to ease our way into talking about Thanksgiving cocktails. Matthew has a cocktail today. I have a cocktail today. But the first thing that we're going to talk about is, well, you have to have an appetizer, right?
You do.
An amuse-bouche. A charcuterie.
An amuse who?
An amuse-bouche.
That's a thing?
Yeah, it's French for appetizer.
Oh, okay. All right. You were just being fancy. You were being a little bougie with your discussions.
I was being a little bougie by using amuse-bouche. That's right. We're going to have an amuse-bouche right now, though, as we talk about appetizers. Because, Matthew, you are coming to my house for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And you have a job. It is your responsibility to bring all of the pre-dinner munchies.
Yes.
The things that get put out onto the table and keep people happy while my wife and I are slaving away in the kitchen.
Yes.
And so I thought you would be an expert on this as to what makes a good Thanksgiving appetizer. And then I thought maybe I could give you some tips and hints.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Yes. Give me some tips or hints because I haven't gone shopping yet for next week. But traditionally, I bring what the kids call a charcuterie board. And I have a nice, somehow I picked up, I think I wanted it at a charity auction, a very nice cutting board. Mm-hmm. That has handles, and it's stained cherry wood, and it's beautiful. And so I use that as my tray. And then I get a variety of cheeses. I kind of do a range from a soft cheese, like a brie.
Like a brie.
A brie, yeah. And then maybe like a hard cheese, like a Gouda or a white cheddar.
Ooh.
And then there's like some goat cheese maybe in there, a little bit of that.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, just a variety of cheeses, which is probably the most expensive part of the tray. Like you're going for, this is something that will add up. I will tell you from experience. You think you're just buying a few things of cheese and bam, you walk out $150 later. So I have learned lately, though, that you can, if you're a frugal shopper, you can go to places like Grocery Outlet around the holidays, and they actually have some higher quality cheese and stuff for a lower price. So if you're looking for a bargain, start there. I usually go to our local Oliver's here in Sonoma County, and they have their own little, what do they call the cheese gurus?
Cheesemongers.
Cheesemongers. Thank you. Yes. And they are always happy to give you some recommendations. So I start with the cheese, and then I go and I get the candied nuts. So maybe some candied pecans, probably a little bit, maybe some salted almonds, just a few different things to kind of add some texture and some snackability. And then I get some dried fruit. So like dried apricots, some figs, some things like that. And then some crackers, of course. So you have to get some, just, you don't want to be flavored crackers though. You want it to be really plain because it's just a vessel for the cheese. Okay, you don't want it to take away from the cheese. And then I might get a little bit of like a honey, like maybe a hot honey or a preserve, some kind of little like fig jelly or something like that. And they're usually found around the cheese section. They're kind of made for these kind of things. And then maybe some toasted baguette slices. Put all that together, you make it look all nice. Now, if you really want to go fancy, you might get some like greens or some like flowers and something like that to kind of put around there. But I know my brother doesn't really care about that, so I don't go that route on our Thanksgiving. But if you want to up it and make it look nice, you can do a little bit of decoration in that respect. But then you kind of just spread it out there and you have a little cheese set. If you have some, the little thick knives that you can easily spread things with, put that out there and let people go to town. And it's a great way to, people can just come up and take what they want. And I find it's an excellent appetizer to all the goodies that you're going to be eating later.
So meat goes there too, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, like a little prosciutto or like a little salami. Yeah, yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Thank you.
Okay, so here's what I was thinking. So stay with me.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay. I'm thinking some Kraft singles.
I'm listening.
Maybe some Cheese Whiz.
Okay.
And then olive loaf for the meat. And then on a Ritz cracker. And then for some extra crunch, you have, what are potato chips that come in the can with the plastic lid?
Oh, Pringles.
Pringles. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think I wouldn't get invited back to Thanksgiving next year by your wife is what I think about that. So
no, you wouldn't get invited back by me either. That's definitely not what I want. Now, don't get me wrong. If I find those in a kitchen and I'm in there all by myself, I'm building myself a really nice tower, but right in my mouth, So the Ritz cracker goes in, the olive loaf goes in, I roll up the Kraft single, shove that in there, and then I just fill out the gaps with the Cheese Whiz. And then I crumble up the Pringles and I sprinkle that on top. And then I just swallow the whole thing. And some of it comes out my nose, but but I only do that when I'm alone. Okay? When I'm in the company of other people, I only eat the bougie stuff.
Okay. Well, then I got to bring the bougie stuff.
Yeah. So I need sheep's milk cheese. And my almonds need to have like 3 different herbs on them.
Okay.
Picked by monks.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I like me a good charcuterie board. Yeah.
Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. It's a great appetizer, folks. That's what I'm going with every Thanksgiving.
All right. Well, there you go. That's what I expect, Matthew. I expect high-end prosciutto and cheap milk cheese.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Consider it done.
Yeah. Oh, but if you are looking for bargains, also Costco.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the more expensive cheeses, they come in smaller sizes. So you're not talking like crazy sizes. Like Costco sizes.
Yeah, that was coming to my mind when you said that. I was like, well, I just bring like a whole wagon wheel of cheese that I got at Costco, the Costco special.
That's right, and that'll be fine for 17 people. So after you have the appetizer, though, you dive into the mains, right? I mean, yes. I don't know how you do it. Maybe you stand in a line because you're doing the buffet style. Maybe all of the elderly people in your family, build out a beautiful spread on the table. However your family does it, or friends or whatever does it, you have a whole array of foods out there. And traditionally, there are some foods that are there every year. Matthew, what are your favorite traditional Thanksgiving foods?
Oh, my favorite ones. Gee, well, I think it's got to be the mashed potatoes, or I love mashed potatoes, but I'll eat those at any time. So if we're talking specifically turkey and gravy with the Hawaiian rolls.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I guess we're brothers. I was like, oh, he's going with mashed potatoes. Cool. I'll go with the gravy on the Hawaiian rolls. Yeah. No, my favorite leftover thing to do is to take leftover Hawaiian rolls and then just make those into little sliders using gravy, leftover gravy, and which there never is any, but so I make extra, and turkey. And I just eat little sliders of those. But I love that so much. That's kind of what I do at the dinner table. Like everybody's, eating their blah, blah, and I'm just building my own little sandwiches.
Yeah.
And I got them all lined up, and then I cram as many as I can in my mouth all at once, and then I chew, and some of it comes out of my nose. Yeah, okay. Okay, do you have a traditional food that you don't like? Like, is there a traditional Thanksgiving food that you just, every time you see it on the table, you're just like, I don't want any of that?
Well, so a lot of Thanksgiving food is, I think, cultural.
Sure, yeah.
So there's lots of different options depending on where you live in the country and maybe, what your cultural background is. So I think in ours, though, I'm not cranberry. I will tolerate it, but I almost do it because I feel obligated. And now that I'm saying that, though, anything that's green, I'm probably shying away from. Like, I might put a little on there for show on the plate, but I really just want to load it up with the other stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Yeah, if it's green, I don't want it. Like, the salad. Every year, my wife's like, I want to make a great salad. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
And she makes a great salad. It's really good.
She does.
But it nothing compares to the turkey and the gravy and the Hawaiian rolls and all that. Yeah.
That's right. I don't want that. It's just going to take up extra room and in my stomach and on my plate. And so I don't want any of the green salad. Now, as you say this, culturally, our family, we historically have had creamed green beans. And as I understand it, this is not something that everybody does across the United States, but it is common in certain parts. I'm not a big fan of that one.
I think, didn't we put an end to that?
Oh, yeah, we don't have it anymore. Right.
I don't remember it being there for a while. So.
Oh, it hasn't been there for a while because one of the people who actually loves that doesn't usually come to our Thanksgiving anymore. My sister-in-law, my wife's sister. Not for any bad reason. It's not like there's bad blood or anything. It's just like they just do a different...
She's got another family that she's got to go to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They just do a different thing. And so she's like a stickler for that one. Like, if that's not there...
Oh, okay.
Then, like, Thanksgiving is off. Right? Yeah, like, she has to have that one. And so I'm not a big fan of that one. But I got to tell you, the one that I hate, like, I cannot stand it, is the sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on top.
Really?
Yeah. And actually, I could eat the marshmallows. I just don't like the sweet potato.
Okay. All right.
So I like the crunchy. I like the, scorched mushrooms. Scorched mushrooms. Ooh, put those on the charcuterie board.
Okay, scorched mushrooms. We're going for it.
But I also like scorched marshmallows. Scorched mushrooms. Scorched marshmallows on scorched mushrooms. I just invented a new Thanksgiving dish.
You did. It's going to be all the rage this year.
Sweet. First recipe of the show.
Before we do any of the foods, though, Ben, First thing I'm doing is I'm making a cocktail, right? I mean, you walk through the door. I'm like, hey, good to see you. Give all the hugs and kisses to the family and head straight to the bar.
Yes, that's right. But if you're going to do that, Matthew, you have to have a setup that is prepared for you, right? Now, if they're a listener to The Perfect Sip, they already know how to have their bar set up that's always ready to make a cocktail.
That's right. Your mise en place.
That's right. Well, no, this is more your set state.
Oh.
No, your ready state. But you should have it in your set state. And then whoever goes there, they'd make their own mise en place.
Okay.
This is all in episode 7.
Yeah, I glossed through that one.
I think it was actually episode 9. It's episode 9. They're all running together to me now. But normally, though, like as the host, you would prepare something. You would have something ready, or you would offer your guests, like you would offer to make them a drink.
Yes.
And so if you're serving cocktails at your Thanksgiving, here's my question for you. What kind of cocktails should you be serving? Should you be serving, say, a low ABV cocktail like spritzes and things like that are long, so it takes a long time to drink them? Because people might show up hours before dinner is ready.
Right.
Right? And you don't want everybody... Well, I don't know. So is that the wise thing to do, just to serve low ABV cocktails and just, even if people are constantly refreshing their cocktails, they're not getting super sloppy drunk?
It's probably the wise thing to do. Yes. Not what I'm doing, but it's probably the wise thing.
Right. Well, another option is you could have a more potent opener. Like you could make a batch cocktails. I was watching something on YouTube, and this lady said that she makes a batch version of Manhattans, which is an interesting endeavor because you have to make that cocktail differently if you're batching it. Right? When you're batching cocktails, you can't do the whole ice shaking thing, but you do still need to account for dilution. So sometimes you just put in plain water and you put it in the refrigerator. But that's not what the show is about. So that is a consideration. So you could serve a very potent, like, kickoff cocktail, and then everybody could switch to, say, like wine or beer or spritzes. And so they get a little loose at the beginning, right? Because you got different groups of people who may not be happy to see each other, as often happens at the old Thanksgiving dinners. But I have another proposal for you, Matthew.
Okay.
How about you just throw fuel on the fire and just let it all burn. Everything except the turkey, right? Just let it all burn, So if people want to have 3 Manhattans.
Hash out like old family grievances? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, yeah. So that by the time dinner hits the table and grace has been said, if that's what you do, the gloves come off and the epithets start flying. Uncle Bruce and cousin Jake, are throwing down. There's like 17 different political battles going on across the table, yelling and screaming, and you just sit back and laugh.
And just fire up your social media and do a play-by-play, right?
That's right. You're like, I got content for the rest of the year.
I think you know which one we're going with on all these options, Ben.
Right.
Let it burn, baby.
Right. Okay, well, so I figured people might want some ideas on how they could serve cocktails, what kind of cocktails they could serve to their guests on Thanksgiving before we get into our cocktails.
Yeah.
So one idea is that you could make a punch. And the nice thing about making a punch is that you can use the same base to make both a non-alcoholic punch and an alcoholic punch.
Just don't confuse the two.
Well, yeah, and you have to keep an eye on little Sally because who she is.
She's a lush.
Yeah, 7-year-old, so precocious. And so little Sally should not be dipping the ladle into the wrong punch bowl, but punches are a wonderful way to go, and they're actually super easy to make. They're just giant sours. Although sometimes they have tea in them. But they're essentially giant sours, and they are one of my favorite kind of cocktails to make, although punches kind of predate what we think of as cocktails. Anyway, they're a cocktail in my book, so a punch is always a great idea to do that. The one thing that I did last year, Matthew, is I had a DIY spritz bar.
Yeah. Got your Aperol and your elderflower liqueur and your bubblies. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and St. George's spiced pear, and pair their liqueurs, and you just have some club soda and some sparkling wine out there, and then people can make their own spritzes. And so you don't have to be catering to everyone and building everybody's cocktail. Again, you do have to keep your eye on 22-year-old Sally because, she hasn't changed much in the last 15 years.
And also, don't go fooling yourself about a champagne cocktail with elderflower liqueur. That sucker packs a punch.
Indeed. And don't put out the Benedictine because that's 40%. And, next thing you know, Grandma Ruth is dancing on the table.
which, could be a great content for social media. Grandma's on TikTok again.
Yeah, but you have to blur certain parts out, and that's always a little extra step that you got to do because you don't want to get, you don't want to get demonetized. Another thing you could do is you can batch cocktails, just like I talked about the woman that I saw on the YouTube.
Yeah.
Had batched her Manhattans. So
yeah, I do that a lot actually, for not just Thanksgiving, but for other parties that I go to. I bring a batch cocktail and I try to theme it. But you could do a batched old fashioned where you're doing like an apple brandy old fashioned, maybe, with some apple brandy and some apple syrup or something. You could also do, just any type of cocktail that you could easily, sours and things can be batched. The one that I'm going to share later could be batched. So just to have it ready made is really, really simple and accessible. So for sure, that's a great option.
So Matthew, if people want to have Thanksgiving or fall themed cocktails, what are some easy ways that they can do that?
Well, my go-tos are two things. I just mentioned the apple brandy, and apple brandy is actually different than apple jack. So apple jack has apple brandy in it, but it also has like a neutral spirit in there to kind of kick up the ABV, and it's not as appley. So if you can go pure apple brandy, that in itself will go a long way towards, a fall themed cocktail. So that's a good place to start. And then allspice dram, specifically St. Elizabeth allspice dram, is a classic. It's got all the flavors of apple pie in it, and it's really good. And it's sweet, so it offers a lot of sweetness to any cocktail that you use, and it gives you that kind of fall pie Thanksgiving vibe. And so I think that those two are the ones that come to mind for me immediately.
Right. And on the spirit side, of course, your bourbons and your brandies are definitely standard sort of fall or Thanksgiving flavors. But also on the mixer side, apple cider or sparkling apple cider are also great additions. However, I would say that don't sleep on mezcal and tequila and them mixing with apple flavored mixers. That is a really great combo and creates really great fall-oriented flavors, but moves you a little bit away from those standard fall spirits like brandy and bourbon or other whiskeys. So that's a great way to get some of those fall flavors, but also do something a little bit different.
It is.
All right. So Matthew, we have 2 Thanksgiving-themed cocktails today.
Yeah.
And we should probably get to them.
All right. I think we should. I've already been drinking mine, to be honest. So
well, that's okay. I drank mine about an hour ago, and it's gone.
Well, tell us about it.
Yeah. Okay. I am presenting a cocktail that I'm calling a white picket fence. Why is it called the white picket fence? Well, this cocktail is actually based on a popular cocktail called a stone fence, which is really just a kind of highball. And what is a highball? Well, a highball is a spirit mixed with a bubbly mixer. Your purest highball is a spirit mixed with club soda. A stone fence is any spirit mixed with apple cider, but in this particular case, I am using sparkling apple cider mixed with my spirit. But my spirit is quite complicated. So let me get into that. What does it take to make a white picket fence? Well, first of all, you are going to need 3 ounces of spiced whiskey milk punch.
Well, that's easy. Just grab yourself some milk punch.
Yeah, just go down to the store and get yourself some spiced whiskey milk punch, and you're good.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you're going to take 3 ounces of that. Don't worry, it's a relatively low ABV. This is not gonna knock your socks off. So and then you're gonna mix that. You're gonna put that into a highball glass with ice, and then you're going to top that with 4 ounces of sparkling cider. If you don't like your cocktails on the sweeter side, you can actually make a mixture of sparkling cider and club soda. So you can go 50-50 on that, or some combination in between those two to come up with the ratio that you like. I like it all cider because I like sweet cocktails. All right, but that's not so simple. because we got to talk about that spiced whiskey milk punch. So what is a milk punch? Well, there's a number of things that are called milk punches, but specifically what I am talking about in this particular case is a clarified milk punch. Now, you make a clarified milk punch by combining milk with other ingredients that causes the milk to curdle. And then you filter that through a filter, either a cheesecloth or a coffee filter. And what happens is, as the milk curdles collect in the filter, they create what's called a nest. And then that nest adds extra layers of filtering, and it clarifies the rest of the ingredients. And so what happens is you get a very lightly colored result from what was originally very darkly colored ingredients. Now, the thing about this process is that it has traditionally been done using acid. So you take your milk and you combine it with a lemon or lime juice, or in most cases, much stronger concentrations of just pure citric acid. The problem with that approach, though, is that it creates a tart cocktail. So this works fine if you want to make a cocktail that is going to have tart elements to it, so something akin to a sour. And this has been the process by which these cocktails have been made since this process has become popular in the last, 20 or 30 years. However, last year, a bartender named Daniel Villa discovered or rediscovered a process by which you can clarify milk without using citric acid. And so that's the approach that I am using today. The recipe for my milk punch is very, very similar to a recipe by Kevin Koss, which he wrote in a blog article on January 19th of this year, so very early this year. He also is a YouTuber, so he has a wonderful YouTube video covering the same topic. And he references Daniel and his technique. I had also read about this technique in a couple of other magazines, but he actually has an interview with Daniel in his video, which is very cool. So my recipe is very similar to Kevin's recipe with some extra additions. So in order to make the spiced whiskey milk punch, here's what you do. You take 8 ounces of spiced whiskey. This is where Kevin and I are diverging. Kevin is using a very nice batched bourbon, 4 Roses small batch. I'm just using Buffalo Trace, which I then spiced. You're going to take 3 ounces of toasted powder milk. You're going to have 1 ounce of maple syrup and a pinch of salt. Now, Kevin Koss gets very exact about the amount of saline that you want to put into this particular recipe. So if you want to go look at his recipe and follow his recipe exactly, then by all means do that. I'm just putting in a pinch of salt. However, the pinch of salt is important, not just to enhance flavors, but because it also helps the curdling process because of how the powdered milk is. The salt helps the powdered milk curdle better. The first thing that you will do is combine your spiced whiskey, the maple syrup, and the salt in a mixing glass with no ice, and you're going to stir to combine. Then you're going to create your toasted powdered milk. What you do is you toast the powdered milk. Now, you don't have to do this, but it adds a lot of body because you get that Maillard effect on the toasted milk, and then that flavor, that umami flavor, ends up in the cocktail. The other thing I would say about toasting your powdered milk, don't overdo it. Just, you want to get a light coloration on the powdered milk at most. If you toast it too much, it will not reconstitute very well when you try to turn it back into milk, and that will cause problems with your curdling later on. I had a few failed batches because I was a little overzealous in my toasting. So, learn from my mistakes so you don't waste as much powdered milk. So I toasted the powdered milk, and then I turned that powdered milk into milk following the manufacturer's instructions. However, the trick is you must do this with boiling hot water. So boil your water, and then as soon as it comes to a boil, use that water to reconstitute the hydrated milk. Now, of course, be careful. Don't hurt yourself. This is important because the heat helps the curdling action later. After you reconstitute it, you want to take off 3 ounces of that. You're going to put that into a container, and then you are going to pour in your spiced whiskey mixture. The curdling should happen immediately. If you've never done this process before, it's going to look bad. You're going to be like, that's wrong. That shouldn't happen. But that's good, because that's exactly what you want to happen. You want all of these chunks of protein to start clumping together into your mixture. That means everything is working how you want it to. Then you pour that through a filter, which can either be a coffee filter or a cheesecloth in a large mesh strainer. The trick here is you're going to need a couple of containers to catch the cocktail as it drips through. Because the first amount of cocktail that's going to go through, it's going to be filtered by the cheesecloth or by the coffee filter, but it's not going to be caught by your curd nest because one won't have formed yet. So you're going to wait for a little bit of the curds to settle on the bottom of the filter, and then you're going to move that to a different container to catch the rest of the drips, and then you're going to take what went through at the beginning and pour that back through. Then you just got to go do something else and wait for this to filter through. Now,
hardest part in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. It is very difficult to wait. You want it to go fast, but you cannot rush this. You cannot make it go faster. It's a slow process. Now, it's not super slow. It's going to take 15 minutes maybe, depending on the volume of your cocktail, the size of your filter, and all those sorts of things. Unfortunately, this is a process that takes practice to master, and you're going to have to figure out how to make all of these parts come together. But the end result should be a very clear liquid. Now, some people have better results with this than others. Okay, I have never been able to get some of the pictures that I have seen on the internet where the thing comes out crystal clear. Mine is always like a lighter brown or yellowish color. But it is always lighter than the whiskey that went into it, right? Which tells you that a lot has happened. Now, what does this result in? Well, it results in something very unique. It is going to taste like the spiced whiskey and the maple syrup, and it's going to be diluted from the water that you put into your powdered milk, but it's also going to have this extra mouthfeel to it that is very unique and sort of indescribable, but I will do my best. Let me just taste a little bit of it here to refresh my memory. Yeah, it's kind of like slightly thicker than water.
Called mouthfeel. Got a little mouthfeel to it.
Yeah, you can also taste some of the sugars that come from the milk. So there is a little bit of milk flavor to this, but these are very compatible flavors. The other thing is because you toasted it beforehand, you get a lot of that extra body and depth that you wouldn't otherwise have, and you can't get from the citric acid method of curdling standard milk. So it creates something that's got a lot of depth to it, a very unique mouthfeel, and a little bit of extra sweetness with a unique kind of flavor that comes from the lactose. And in this particular case, I am adding that to apple cider. And what was really amazing to me was that mouthfeel remains, right? The apple cider does not diminish that in any way. And so it gets a really, really kind of refreshing but deeply bodied cocktail. It's a little bit on the sweet side because of the apple cider. But again, as I mentioned, you can cut that with club soda. It's a really wonderful cocktail. Oh, by the way, my spiced whiskey, I just took another recipe off the internet. So I took 750 milliliters of whiskey. Yes, I devoted a whole bottle to this. You don't have to devote a whole bottle. You could do half a bottle. And I put 2 cinnamon sticks in there, a star anise or anise pod, 4 cloves, and I cracked a nutmeg. A nutmeg. So that's like one of the big whole seeds, not the powdered stuff. Do not use powdered nutmeg because you will put too much in there. And then the thing will just come out tasting like metal. I don't know why, but just, yeah. Cracked nutmeg, not nutmeg powder. I mean, maybe you can do it, but I'm just warning you. You're going to put all of that in. You're going to let that sit for at least 24 hours, and then you're just going to taste it every day until it hits a level of spiciness that you like. And then you just take all of your spices out, and now you have spiced bourbon. Anyway, that is my cocktail for Thanksgiving, Matthew. The White Picket Fence. Because it's sort of a stone fence, but it's also got milk in it.
All right. Well, I love this idea of using the powdered milk as a way of clarifying your milk punch, because without it, I mean, I've done it once before and I used citric acid, or actually I think it was a combination of lemon juice and pineapple juice, if I recall. It was lovely. And I can't imagine what this is like without the acid, and just have this kind of mouthfeel without that tartness is got to be amazing. What I would suggest on this one is that you definitely batch this sucker, double the recipe or triple the recipe, and milk punches keep forever. You can put them in the back of your fridge actually and not worry about it. It'll stay good for a good long time. So, but you know, these kind of cocktails won't be in your back of your fridge for very long. They're really good. Yeah,
you won't. They're going to last way longer than your 375 milliliter bottle of dry vermouth. That's for sure.
That's right. Well, that's great. I can't wait to taste it on Thanksgiving, Ben, when I come down to visit you.
Yeah, I think I'm making this one. This is it. This is a hit. I like it.
All right.
Okay, what are you presenting today?
Well, Ben, I have made a cocktail that I'm calling Autumn's Kiss.
Ooh.
No other reason than it just sounded good, to be honest. But what is in an Autumn's Kiss? Well, it's got 2 ounces of brandy or cognac, 3/4 ounces of allspice dram, which we talked about as a way of autumnifying your drink, 1 ounce of lemon juice, 3/4 ounces of cinnamon syrup, 1 dash of cardamom bitters, and 1 dash of orange bitters. You're also going to take your coupe glass and you're going to rinse it with absinthe before you pour the rest of the cocktail in. So the first step is take your coupe glass and pour about 1/4 ounce of absinthe into your glass and roll it all around and get it coated all inside, and then dump any excess. Or if you have absinthe in an atomizer, you could just spray a few spritzes into there and coat the inside of the glass and set that aside. Then you're going to add all the ingredients I just mentioned into a cocktail shaker with ice. Give it a good shake until it's well chilled. And then you're going to double strain that into the prepared coupe glass. And you're going to garnish it with a star anise. And what you get, it's almost like a spiced apple cider. It tastes really, really good. It's a very fall forward, there's a lot of depth to it with a little bit of the tartness in the back. It's a really lovely fall themed cocktail, and it's as soon as you drink it, you will think fall or Thanksgiving. And so I'm not going to go. I don't have all the bells and whistles that Ben's had. This is actually a pretty simple sour template, but I really love it. And I will say on the allspice jam and the cinnamon syrup, they combine really well together. The cinnamon brings up just a whole level of that like apple pie kind of feeling. And so, and the cardamom bitters, I'm using Fee Brothers cardamom bitters, which I really like. I've also tried Scrappy's cardamom bitters, and I prefer Fee Brothers. It's less bitter and it's got more body than the Scrappy's. And then 1 dash of orange bitters. So all those combined, the orange bitters just brings out a little brightness at the end. So something that's pretty easy to make. You could batch this easily. And when you batch something, you do 1 or 2 things. You either accommodate for water ahead of time. If you're going to multiply this by 4 or whatever, you're going to have 4 ounces of water. If you're multiplying it by 6, you're going to have 6 ounces of water. You want to add 1 ounce of water per every drink that you make. But you could also not add the water and then just shake each individual cocktail as it comes out, which is also a nice way of just making sure that it's uniform. So that's what I would do. But if you don't want to bother with that, you could just add the water ahead of time. So that's what I'm drinking, Ben. Autumn's Kiss.
Nice girl, Autumn. One thing I will say, if you are going to batch this cocktail, because it has lemon juice in it, if you're batching it earlier in the day and then going to serve it later in the day, no problem. In fact, that lemon juice is going to get a little bit better. I know I said to squeeze your lemons and limes right as you make the cocktail because that's the best.
It's actually a lie.
That's actually a lie. And I knew that was a lie from the moment I told you. It's actually like a couple hours. Like it gets better. It ages and it gets better over like 2 or 3 hours. But then it peaks, and then after that it goes downhill, and after like 3 days it's like it's just all gone. It's just bad. So that you should note that if you're making this ahead of time as a batch, like do it earlier in the day. If not, look into shrubs, because shrubs are a great way to add acidity without having the volatile compounds that lemon juice brings that can oxidize and then change the...
And if you're going to do that, then maybe an apple cider shrub would be the way to go for a fall-themed cocktail.
Indeed. Yeah, I like it. The other thing is like a cardamom. I know there's a cocktail show, but I got to tell you, this flavor, like I slept on this flavor for a long time in my life. And I think I only discovered it because of cocktails. But now, like, whenever I'm doing something cooking related in the fall, like, this is just one of my favorite fall flavors. I love this flavor. And I've only discovered it, I think, in the last few years, how much I love this flavor. I guess in the world of bitters these days, like, they make a bitter for every flavor.
They do.
But even so, it warms my heart to know that at least 2 people are making cardamom bitters out there.
Yeah.
And 2 relatively big brands as well. So
They are.
this is a really great cocktail. And I don't know what you're talking about, Matthew. This is way more complicated than mine. My cocktail had 2 ingredients. Yours has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ingredients. You got to rinse the glass with absinthe. You need allspice dram. You need 2 different kinds of bitters. You need cinnamon syrup. What are you talking about? This is a very complicated and sophisticated cocktail.
It looks complicated. It's simply complicated, I guess. I don't know.
It's simply complicated. Yeah, I think this one actually is fun to make. Because you're doing the dash of this and the dash of that. You know, folks, if you put that towel over your shoulder in just the right way and button that top button on the old blouse or shirt, you're going to look very classy as you make this at Thanksgiving for your guests. Yeah.
If you want to really look impressive, then you're going to transfer your bitters into like one of those Japanese bitter dispensers.
Yes.
And if that's the case, you're going to need 2 shakes out of those.
That's right. That's right, because they dole out in half the dosage of your standard plastic stopper.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't have one of those. Should I get one of those?
I don't have one of those either. I don't really need to impress the people with my bitters bottles, but yes, you should get one of those.
Okay. Well, we're gonna cover intermediate level equipment in about 1.5 years from now.
Okay. Well, maybe then
when we get to the intermediate level of stuff. So stay tuned for that one.
Affiliate link below, folks.
All right. Well, there you have it. Autumn's Kiss and the White Picket Fence. If you liked either of these cocktails enough to try them yourselves, you can find the recipes for them in the show notes for this episode. And that brings us to the end of today's show. As I said, we are on hiatus, but we will be back. I think December 20th is the target date. We will be back on December 20th, starting our new arc all about cocktail templates. In the meantime, it would be a tremendous help if you could take the time to rate and review the show on your podcast platform of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Your feedback is extremely valuable, and your positive ratings really help the show grow. It would also be helpful if you could tell your friends about us. Word of mouth is always the best way to help any podcast grow. Just like your podcast about your cardamom farm.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I mean, if you have that, tell me about it.
Called Cardamom and Pop.
Nice. I like that title. Folks, you can steal that from Matthew.
You can. Take it, please.
if you are going to start a cardamom podcast. I would definitely listen to it. You might only have one listener, but I would listen to every episode. If you want to get a hold of us here at The Perfect Sip, you can find us on social media at Instagram and Threads, where we go by the username Perfect Sip Podcast. You can also find links to all of our social media accounts in the show notes for today's show. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, best of luck in your search for the perfect sip. Cheers, Matthew.
Cheers, Ben. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Well, I think that's going to wrap it up, folks. Thanks for listening to another episode of Giant Cocktails. Don't forget to follow us on the socials at Giant Cocktails on the platform formerly known as Twitter, on Instagram, Threads, and yes, even Mastodon still. You can also...
What about Blue Sky? Blue Sky blew up.
Yeah, at some point, we're probably going to have to be on there for sure.
All right.
But I'm lazy and I haven't done it yet, so...
We'll get rid of the old elephant. And we'll
And eventually get rid of the old X, but,
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, please, yes. We'll keep the elephant and get rid of the X.
Exactly. Yeah, Baggerly did it. But anyway.
Did he?
Yeah, he's not going to be posting on X anymore.
Sweet. Well, that's... the only reason I go to X is because you send me links to X.
That's right. Don't forget, you can also listen to us on YouTube where you can leave comments. Also, don't forget to rate us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It would really help the show. Ben, it's been great talking to you about Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few days. Until then, cheers, my friend.
Cheers, Matthew. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.